Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra, as always, with James from Gunnerblog. James, goodly morning to you.
Goodly morning, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm ready for all the drama and tension and nervousness to return, but this was a relatively chilled out weekend in footballing terms. So
it was.
Yeah.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
That's it. I did enjoy it while it lasted. It's now over, but hey.
Yeah, we can worry about what's to come down the line. I've been watching In the Night Garden this morning. Are you aware of In the Night Garden?
I think I've heard of it, but now all I can think of is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
I think that's a bit different.
I think so.
In the Night Garden is a sort of a fever dream of a show for young children, where like the Ninky Nonks and Upsy Daisy live in this sort of fantasy land.
Sort of like, what was the one with the...
It's like Teletubbies.
That's what I was thinking of, like the really stoned weirdos.
It's like, it's like Teletubbies on acid, I would say.
Okay. This is your choice, is it, to watch this, or is it something to do with your young son?
No, Rocky wanted to watch Midnight in the Garden
of Good and Evil.
Yeah.
How you doing, sport?
He was really pushing hard for that. But it is good In the Night Garden, but it's got quite catchy songs in it, and I find myself wondering if they could take off as football chants.
Right, sort of applying them to various Arsenal players.
Or just singing them about Upsy Daisy. Upsy Daisy is a happy, optimistic dolly who dances through the garden, and she's got a song. He goes, Upsy Daisy, here I come. I'm the only Upsy one. I'm the only Daisy do. It's the Upsy Daisy do. You imagine that in the North Bank?
Certainly can. Certainly can.
I just Googled Upsy Daisy to be like, I wonder if I'm getting these lyrics right. And the first thing that comes up is... You know how Google does like questions people also ask?
Yeah.
The first question is Upsy Daisy a slag?
What the fuck?
That's the first question on Google. That's what people want to know.
Every single day, despite the way this technology connects us and has enabled us to have this wonderful career in what we do, which I enjoy and I love so much, but every day I see something that makes me just think the internet was a mistake.
A mistake, yeah.
A big
let's
mistake.
save the question, is Upsy Daisy a slag, for part 2, of course.
Yes.
Where we deal with the questions. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm in a relaxed mood this morning. There's been no Premier League football.
That's fair. We've
had a lovely time in the FA Cup.
And it was a lovely time. I mean, I think, we have to acknowledge or make the point that we were playing struggling League One opposition, but, that's not our fault.
The whole podcast has got a caveat around it, right? Which is Wigan are not good.
No.
They're League One, and they're not near the top of League One.
They're more near the bottom of League One than the top. That is for sure.
They're in a sort of, where Spurs are in the Premier League. They're about there in League One.
Oh, listen, I think that's a bit unfair on Wigan, comparing them to Spurs. Come on.
That's cruel, actually.
Yeah, it is.
The fans did sing at one point, "Are you Tottenham in disguise?" I think after the second or third goal, and I thought, that's a low blow. We need to be better than that.
I think I did. I could be wrong. Did I hear the Wigan fans singing, "How shit must you be? It's only 1-0," something like that? I think they did. So they were probably asking for a little bit of that in return.
Yeah, they know they're not very good.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't mean it wasn't good fun or interesting.
It was for about half an hour.
That's true, actually.
About half an hour in, I was going, is this the day where we just go goal crazy? Go mad on the goals?
Elliot's fabled 10-0.
Yeah. Or our friend Tony, as you know, has been waiting for the 8 his entire life. We've nearly got there.
I mean, Mikel's record is, I think, the 7-1 in Eindhoven. 8 is very, the lesser seen 8, really.
I mean, it was there. It was there. It was there for us. And we let it slip. And now I'm in a funk. Now I'm just going to go all in.
We bottled the 8, Andrew.
You know what? Listen, it was good to get the 4. And then after that, I think in the grand scheme of things, if you're complaining that we didn't score any more in a game like this, like, I get it. It would have been nice, but, it wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary. Maybe there was a tactical reason for it as well, beyond Arsenal taking the foot off the gas, if that's the right way of putting it.
Maybe. I mean, I think what Wigan did tactically in the first half was...
insane?
Yes. It was like, I mean, it wouldn't have looked out of place in the Night Garden, Andrew. It was that naive and potentially insane.
Okay.
And it was, the thing is, we very rarely will get teams who will play a high line against us. But to do it quite so badly was a particular gift, I think.
It tends to be more of a feature of cup football, cup competitions when we play in Europe. Not that teams necessarily play a high line, but there's certainly a different approach from teams in Europe. And maybe, Wigan, Glenn Whelan, former Stoke player, of course, in charge of Wigan temporarily. Maybe he looked at, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan, said that's the way that you really get at Arsenal, despite the results. I don't know what they were thinking. They played a back 5 or 3 centre-halves and wing-backs, but they also played them much higher up the pitch than you ordinarily would if that's your approach to a game like this. Like, you would have imagined they were cognizant of the gap and the golfing quality. Nevertheless, cup football, bit weird at times, can throw up the odd upset. They probably had a plan to say, let's keep it tight for the first 15, 20 minutes. Maybe the crowd gets a bit nervous. Maybe the team gets a bit nervous. And then we'll see you nick a goal from us. You never know. You just never know. They just didn't quite do the whole keep it tight thing.
No, that didn't really pan out for them. I mean, yeah, they played into our hands really with that. And particularly the way we ended up lining up and the amount of pace we had in our front line. It was a bad combo for them. So there was a bit of a switch around right before kickoff. We thought we were going to see, never mind the 8th goal, the just as rare sight of Myles Lewis-Skelly playing in midfield.
Yeah, that seemed to be the plan anyway when the team was announced about an hour or so before kickoff. I kind of want to leave that discussion to part 2 because I've got some questions about it. So we'll maybe talk about Myles in part 2. But the issue, as you said, was an injury for Riccardo Calafiori in the warm-up. I didn't really see what happened or, what the issue might be. Are we any the wiser this morning as to what the problem is?
Not really. I mean, I didn't spot anything myself, and I've scoured social media because usually there's some intrepid bloke with a camera.
Yeah, someone's got the video. Yeah.
And sees somebody sort of gingerly limp out of the circle. But no sign of what's happened to Riccardo Calafiori. I think it's the second time this season drawn from a warm-up. But yeah, obviously disappointing for him.
So that meant a bit of a late change, which meant that Bukayo Saka came into the starting lineup and Myles Lewis-Skelly was shunted back, unceremoniously shunted back to the position he plays in all the time, which is left back.
Yeah. Was there any surprise for you that it was Saka who came in? I was just looking at the bench and seeing what our options were. I suppose, you could have put one of Rice or Zubimendi in, but that would have been a shame, I think, given the obvious need for those guys to get a rest.
Yes, I think that was the priority. I mean, I think that's why Myles was picked anyway. When I was previewing the game on the blog, I was thinking, who are they going to put in midfield? Because you can do the Norgaard Eze thing, but who else is going to play in there? And I was like, well, maybe one of Rice or Zubimendi kind of has to play this game because we don't have Marino, we don't have Martin Odegaard who was injured, we don't have Kai Havertz. So options were limited, and I think that was the main reason why he chose Myles there was essentially to give a rest to Rice and Zubimendi. So I
He
suppose...
could just put Nketiah in, I suppose, straight swap. But...
Yeah, maybe he's resting Nketiah. Maybe there's like a slight, little niggle that they're looking after. I don't know. That might explain it.
To be honest, I think Saka just needed minutes as well. That was the thing. I mean, anyone who saw Bukayo Saka against Brentford, I think it's fair to say, he didn't look necessarily at his sharpest. So
no.
Giving him the minutes made some degree of sense, and also presented an opportunity to look at him in a different position, which I think was really, quite interesting.
Yes, I agree with that. Actually, I've done we're on the Myles point now, so I might as well just drop this question in. So we had one on the Discord from Windles who says, were you as sad as me that we didn't get to see Myles in midfield? And we had a number of questions about that particular issue, not seeing Myles Lewis-Skelly in midfield. I will say that if you were to give me a straight choice between seeing Myles in midfield or seeing Bukayo Saka playing in a more central area, I would go for the latter 100 times out of 100. Because it's something I think we've spoken about on this pod in the past. I'm sure I've said I think he's got the quality and the ability and the talent to play more centrally and to play in central areas. I'd sort of thought about him maybe as a sort of a left 8 at times. I think he's got that within his locker. So I would be much more interested in seeing Bukayo Saka in midfield than Myles Lewis-Skelly in midfield. And that's not any criticism of Myles. It's just when I think about what we've got available to us right now, who we're missing, and how we might need actually to sort of find something or do something a little bit differently with the team, it just struck me that Saka in that position, he was in the Odegaard position, I guess you would say yesterday, is probably more beneficial than seeing Myles get a run out because that's where he played when he was a youth player.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel, if Calafiori's out for any length of time, then having Myles in the rhythm of playing left back is probably going to be useful.
Yeah,
he's going to need to
that too.
Have minutes there. B, I kind of feel like Myles was only really in midfield as a sort of last resort, really, because of the injuries we've suffered, the need to give Rice and Zubimendi a rest. I'm not sure that him being selected there initially was a sign of some great change in Mikel Arteta's thinking around Myles. I think it was more a sort of needs-must scenario. And I'm kind of inclined to agree with you that the Saka experiment might have more value to us moving forward. And to sort of like skip to my sort of major outtake, really, I'm not saying Saka had a blistering 45 minutes or anything like it, but I actually think that him being in this position is something that Arsenal could come back to. Maybe even as soon as Wednesday, because for me, I think having Saka in that team in central area sort of just frees him up a little bit. And I think Noni's on a decent run on the right-hand side. And there were a couple of moments in this game where those two combined or overlapped, like certainly built up to the third goal, that I thought were really promising. And I think in the absence of Kai Havertz, who I think had kind of made that position his own in the space of a few games, I think Saka could be a serious option there.
I agree. And Arteta was asked about it afterwards and was asked about what he could offer in that position. He said he's more central, he's closer to the goal. It's a bit more difficult for the opponent to get his reference constantly, which I think is another interesting aspect of that. When he is out wide, it's not that teams, always shut him down, but they kind of know essentially more or less where he's going to be in terms of where he picks up the ball. Arteta continued. He can interchange positions with the wide player as well. He's so good at picking those spaces. When he's there, he can really hurt you with the ball. Again, with the caveat of the opposition. He had, let me have a look, statistically, 2 shots, 1 key pass, which led to the third goal, that interchange with Madueke and the cross. Passed it at 96% 96% completion. So it wasn't like spectacular, I agree with you, but I think it was very tidy. particularly as he hasn't really played there a great deal for Arsenal. And I thought there was certain aspects of where he was picking up the ball on the pitch that were really, really interesting. And I think the other thing, if you're going to talk about him in that position, is that he's a very forward-thinking player, right? Bukayo Saka. Mm-hmm. Like, his instinct is to drive at defenders, to make things happen, to create and to get shots off. That's what he does when he's in the wide positions. Nobody typically takes more shots than him, puts in more crosses. So I think what he brings in that position, and this isn't meant to be criticism of anyone else or Martin Odegaard in particular, but Odegaard is much more comfortable dropping deep and trying to link play and helps us recycle the ball. You know, and at times, I think I've said this, I would like to see him play further forward. Like, I can't envisage Saka in that position dropping back between the centre halves, because that is not where he wants to pick up the ball. So if we're thinking about how a slightly different player in that position might influence the dynamic of the team in the way, let's say, that Kai Havertz did, because of how he moves and where he is on the pitch, in as much as what he does with the ball or doesn't do with the ball, I think Saka in that position is a really, really interesting thing to consider. And I've seen people say, have we stumbled upon the Mourinho up front thing? It's too early to say, but I do think it might be something that we have to consider between now and the end of the season, particularly if the injuries continue in midfield.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the zones Saka was playing in, I think it was kind of more akin to what Havertz has been doing than what maybe Martin Odegaard does in that position. Yeah, definitely. I would have it in serious consideration for Wednesday and the Premier League at Wolves. I think it might be worth another go.
I mean, again, you're not taking anything for granted, but do you think that because it is Wolves and they're a team that have been struggling this season, is it not a risk-free way, but it's a low-risk way of seeing how it translates to higher caliber opposition?
Definitely, and also, you don't have that many alternatives. I mean, Kai Havertz is out. Martin Odegaard was out for this game. We don't know what condition he'll be in by Wednesday. You know, your other option is you flip Eze back into that position, but obviously he struggled in that kind of role at Brentford, had a much better game on Saturday, but I thought in quite a different role, playing much deeper. So, yeah, I'd be curious to see it again. I mean, we spoke, again, look, obviously you put the caveat on it of it's Wigan and all those things. They played a high line, which I highly doubt Wolves will on Wednesday night. But I did think there was a nice chemistry about this attack and a nice balance. You know, we've spoken sometimes this season about maybe a lack of balance in the attacking options, but I thought this front four worked quite well because you had three players in Martinelli, Saka and Madueke who all are willing to run beyond, and that makes a nice compliment to a Gabriel Jesus, for example, who wanted to drop in. I mean, he was often in some of those Odegaard positions, right, coming a lot deeper into midfield. Yeah, I don't think Arteta will, name the same four against Wolves, but I do think there are elements from this attack that might be worth persisting with.
You mentioned Eze. Do you think there is something to be said for him playing on the left as opposed to the right or more centrally that suited him in this game? Because that's kind of where he played a lot for Crystal Palace. Not exclusively, but that was essentially his area of the pitch, was that sort of inside left eight, whatever you want to call it. That was the area in which he operated best for Crystal Palace. So do you think that balance, if you're talking about it, you've got a sort of left-footed Saka in the right eight position, you've got a right-footed Eze in the left eight position. I think there's a huge amount of football intelligence between those two as well. And they did seem to connect quite well in this game. So maybe that balance, we not stumbled upon it, but we had to go that way because of the injury to Calafiori. And maybe we found something that's worth having another look at.
Maybe. I mean, I suppose the sort of argument against that would be, I think Eze was playing, almost in that sort of two closer to Norgaard. And I just see when we go to Molineux, I can't see past Arteta picking Rice and Zubimendi in those positions. I think Eze had a great game and some really lovely passes from deep and two beautiful assists, I think, for the first two goals. But do I think Mikel Arteta would pick him there?
Ahead of Declan Rice, yeah.
Ahead of Declan Rice. I'm not sure I consider that realistic. But it was interesting to see Eze sort of flourishing in a slightly different role, as you say, over on the left-hand side and a little bit deeper. I think Wigan really played into his hands as well because, that high line just gave him the opportunity. But he had the vision and he had the technique to deliver it. I mean, the first goal to come onto it from Madueke is a really, really great assist from Eze.
It really is. I mean, it's a great run, by the way. It's a really smart run from Madueke in from the right. But the pass from Eze is superb, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those where the pass is so good, the only thing Madueke can do is what he did. Like, he doesn't need to do anything else. The weight of the pass, the trajectory of the pass, it just says, finish me.
Time.
Yeah, first time, hit me. I mean, he did it very well, Madueke, but the quality of that pass is exceptional.
It really is, and it's a lovely little kind of shimmy to beat his man. It's almost a bit of a no-look pass, isn't it? He sort of feints if he's going to go it wide, and then just the weight on the ball is perfect. It's almost like a golf shot, the way it kind of rolls into Madueke's path. Brilliant. Just a great moment for Eze, and probably what he needed, obviously, after a difficult night at the G-Tech where he came off at half-time. And a demonstration of what he can do, what he can offer. And it's not his first assist from deeper areas. I mean, we go back to that winner against Manchester City, right? The ball over the top for Gabriel Martinelli. Although we think of him as a final third player who makes contributions in that kind of last 25 yards of the pitch, he has shown a propensity to pick these passes from the centre circle, which play through the lines. And yeah, great goal. I mean, one thing I thought about our goals in this half was that it feels like you don't see Arsenal score these goals in the Premier League.
Sure.
Is that because we don't encounter teams who play in the fashion Wigan did, or as ineptly as Wigan did? Is it because we don't necessarily pick someone like Eze, in that position to play those passes through? I'm a big fan of Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice. I'm not sure they quite have that pass in them. I don't know. I thought it was interesting, but I did feel that these were kind of anomalous goals almost, really, within this Arsenal season.
Maybe so. I mean, maybe it's just a question that the teams you face in the Premier League are just much, much better than Wigan, and therefore you don't get, the time on the ball. Defenders are more alert to the run of Madueke, for example, or a midfielder steps across and cuts that pass out before it goes through the lines. I think there is some merit to what you're saying there, for sure. And I think there are games maybe where, listen, I think both Rice and Zubimendi are unbelievable. They've been both fantastic this season. I do wonder if there are certain game states where it ought to be more one of those on the pitch.
Do you need both?
Do you need both in every game, or in every minute of every game? That might be another way of putting it, where I think, let's say, and I don't want to throw out a negative hypothetical, but let's say we're at Molineux and we need something to change in the second half. Do we need Rice and Zubimendi, or can you, let's say, if Eze doesn't start, can you shift it around? Let's say you bring Zubimendi off, drop Rice deep, put Eze left, Saka on the right, or whoever's going to play in that right 8 position, and then you've got these two creative players behind the front three.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting discussion. And to be fair to Mikel, we have seen that here and there. I forget, there was a game recently, was it Forest, where he dropped Rice into holding midfield and kind of went for it a bit more. But yeah, they've both been so brilliant. I'm not in any way trying to detract from what Rice and Zubimendi have contributed this season. But it is a question of sort of balance and need and what's required on a game-by-game basis.
Sure.
He's got so many options at his disposal, Mikel Arteta. And I think this is just an interesting look at, some of what he's got up his sleeve, potentially.
Eze got the assist for the second goal. It's a nice ball into him from Cristhian Norgaard. Played with real pace. He takes it well, spots the run of Martinelli. Left-footed pass this time from Eze, by the way. Left-footed pass. Found Martinelli. Martinelli runs onto it, takes a touch and finishes with his left foot, which he's more than capable of doing. Maybe could have done the other night against Brentford, but let's not go there. But a good finish from Martinelli, and again, a nice contribution from Eze. And, people will say it's only Wigan. It's only Wigan. It's only the FA Cup, etc., etc. And I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that we haven't quite got as much out of Eze this season that we thought we would, on a consistent basis anyway.
Yep.
But I think you have to look at it as a positive for him. If you're looking for a guy to find some form, find some rhythm, find some confidence, find a little bit of belief, regardless of the fact that it is League One opposition, when he has the kind of game that he had yesterday, it can only be a good thing, in my opinion.
Definitely. Like I say, I think this was actually quite an important game for us. I think a lot of eyes were on him coming into it.
Sorry to interrupt. I suppose if he didn't do it, people will be saying he can't even do it against Wigan. So there's that flip side. Yeah.
I think there was a degree of pressure. I think his role was tweaked in the moments before kickoff as well. I think he probably would have been playing somewhat differently, somewhat higher and more to the right-hand side if Myles had started in midfield. So there was a bit of an adjustment for him. But I thought he did everything you would want him to do in that first half. I love this assist as well, the way he sort of takes the ball under control, lets it roll across his body to his left foot on the outside, and then just slides it down the line into Martinelli's path. Again, for an attacker like Martinelli, it's a dream of a pass. He knows exactly what he needs to do, attacks it, gets onto it, and finishes really, really well, to give him his credit. So, another really, really nice, easy on the eye goal, I think.
Third goal, good combination between Madueke and Saka, which is what Arteta was referencing post-game. Saka put the ball across. I think it hit the bottom of Gabriel Jesus' foot, bounced up and hit the defender and into the back of the net for an own goal.
Yeah, own goal on the score sheet again. I think I'm very interested by the sort of Saka Madueke dynamic. It strikes me that for years it was almost difficult for Arsenal to buy a player for that position because everybody knew Saka was the man. And then the player we end up signing is one of Saka's closest friends in football. I just think it's really interesting. You've basically got these two mates ostensibly in direct competition, and they've signed up for it kind of willingly, and they both seem to be really supportive of each other. So I think it's a really fascinating dynamic. And I know Mikel is kind of interested in chemistry between players. He always spoke about Fabio Vieira and Gabriel Martinelli and the sort of understanding and rapport that they had on and off the pitch. And
well, that worked out all right, didn't it?
And maybe I'm making too much of this. I don't know. Sure. I just feel like there is something there with Madueke and Saka, that they are in some sense kindred spirits, or like I think they have an appreciation for each other's game that I think is interesting, and maybe could unlock something a bit different in this Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the thinking was that this season it would be an either-or situation with those two. If it wasn't the case.
Madueke on the left.
Madueke on the left, I was going to say,
was looked at in pre-season quite a lot, wasn't it? But Trossard's form, I think, kind of put paid to that. But yeah, I mean, if I was picking my team for Wednesday, to come back to it, I do think I'd want both in that starting 11. How you do that is kind of up to you, Mikel. But
yeah,
I think on form, less for form in Saka's case, but quality, you'd want him in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It is interesting. We're coming back to him in the middle, or coming back to, a slight change of... I mean, this, I really do think, and I think we said this, maybe with regards... there's my chair falling apart. Maybe with regards Havertz coming in, the positive aspect of a change of dynamic for the team, I think in the final stages of a season. You know, if you can add even just a little bit of unpredictability or something a little bit different where it takes, you know, no opposition analyst until yesterday is looking at Arsenal and preparing a game against Arsenal and saying, well, we have to consider the possibility of Bukayo Saka playing in midfield.
No, you're
because
right.
Bukayo Saka always plays on the right. That's where he plays, and for obvious reasons. But this is something slightly different. Maybe it's just a case of needs must on the afternoon. But I think there was enough that was encouraging about it and the link up with Madueke, as you say, for Arteta to give it some serious consideration. So let's see. Fourth goal, nice ball over the top. Another good run from Gabriel Jesus. Again, I think you're probably looking at defenders of a League One side just not being aware enough of the movement of somebody like Gabriel Jesus because he runs across the line. Norgaard plays a really good pass. Good touch, good finish, 4-0. That's 27 minutes.
Yeah, Norgaard had a good game. I mean, again, it's not a game that tested him hugely, not a game that tested any of these Arsenal players, but, you know, I think he was given the man of the match, Norgaard.
He was on TV,
And yeah, nice little touch from Jesus. I think this might have been the one where the offside line was particularly bad. Like,
there was a guy standing about like 2 meters behind.
Yeah. And that just kills you, obviously, in a situation like this. But, lovely finish from Jesus. You know, 4-0, 26 minutes on the clock, 27 minutes, you're thinking, this could be anything.
That's all it was. That's all it was.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, they had a chance. I think one of their guys sort of wriggled in behind and got a shot off, and Kepa made a save.
Yeah, decent save that, point blank range.
Kind of straight at him, so, you know.
Yeah, it was a good chance for them. Taylor, I think it was. Not great defending from us in the build-up, actually, as Norgaard, I think, could have cleared their lines a bit better. But, I mean, the real action, Andrew, was at half-time. Don't know if you were aware of this.
I've seen more questions about this than anything else.
It was big. It was Gunnosaurus versus Krusty the Pie of Wigan in a penalty shootout.
They obviously showed this on TV, did they?
I think just the stands were packed because a lot of people, a dinosaur versus a pie is the kind of contest that's keeping the magic of the FA Cup alive.
It's the pinnacle of elite football, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, to give Gunnosaurus his due, I mean, he's done well there, because Krusty the Pie, when Krusty the Pie is facing you in a penalty shootout, he's got some circumference on him.
That's the problem, though. I think his head is just too big. How do you coordinate your feet with a head that's that size, you know? That's the problem.
True.
Gunnosaurus is more proportioned, therefore he's got an advantage. It's like if Krusty the Pie had like a really tiny little button head, but a gigantic boot, you know.
I understand. But Krusty the Pie, I do think this merits this level of analysis. Krusty the Pie has got his legs fully out of the pie. You know what I mean? Are you looking at Krusty the Pie right now?
I'm not. I mean, should I?
Get it up.
Krusty the Pie.
We're going to do this. It's like Monday Night Football, and we've got the clips up on the screen. We've got the giant iPad out.
That's it.
So look, Krusty the Pie, his legs are effectively free. Mm-hmm. Yes, his top half is encased in pastry.
And his hands are coming out of his face. That can't be good for your balance either.
That's true. But then dinosaurs have little arms.
Little T-Rexy.
So they've all got their challenges. What I'm saying is credit where it's due. The pressure was on, and Gunnosaurus delivered a 3-1 victory.
Did he then devour the pie man? Or are dinosaurs...
intolerant of pastry?
Yeah, that's it. He needs gluten-free or something.
Yeah. He removed the lid ate the insides. So that, I'd say after that is really where the entertainment ended.
There was a halftime change, of course. Victor Gyökeres came on for Bukayo Saka, which I assume was just sort of common sense.
Yes, and presumably Victor saying, have you seen that high line? Please, God, get me on there.
Yeah. Didn't quite work out. He did hit the post. A couple of really nice passes in this half from Ben White, who tried to make things happen. I think he created that chance for Gyökeres. He created a chance for Gabriel Jesus, who shot at the keeper. But it was really just sort of 45 minutes that had to happen because of the laws of the game and stuff. You have to...
And the laws of time and all those things. Yes, it occurred. The Gyökeres one that flashed against the post, that was sort of it, really, for significant incident. Ben White gave us all a scare by hobbling off. We saw a couple of cameos. Marley Salmon came on.
We did.
Initially at centre-half and then switching out to right-back when White went off. And at long last, Andrew, the long-threatened goalkeeper substitution.
Yes, we have a question. I've got to find the question, though. So hang on, let me do it.
Trying to think if there was anything else really noteworthy in that half.
I did like this one. Benedict Ossel, who's at Benny Ossel on Blue Sky, said, why was Setford really brought on? Was it deserved game time, or was Arteta testing Kepa to see if he'd actually come off? Because he had the opportunity, didn't he, to do something really quite funny there.
By refusing to come off. Yes, that would have been good. I mean, he was perfectly happy to in the end, wasn't he? But I suppose there was no threat of penalties at that point in time.
No, it was unlikely that it was going to go that far.
Yeah, that's a rare show of sort of sentiment, I think, from Mikel.
It was a strange one. It was a strange
ruthless
one.
in his decision making.
I wonder what it was, actually, because Setford was on the bench. David Raya was not in the squad, given a day off. I mean, was there some discussion, on the training ground? If it's like this, we can throw you on for a few minutes. We can save a sub and give you a chance. I don't know.
A whim in the spur of the moment. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it gives Tommy Setford his home debut. I think he played maybe at Preston for Arsenal.
He did. He played in the EFL Cup last year.
I suppose, it's a kind of thankless task, isn't it? He's the third choice goalkeeper. He travels with the group a lot. He's rarely on the bench even. Doesn't get much of a look in. It's just a way of sort of acknowledging his contribution. I think Mikel said something like, everybody's played their part, and we wanted to recognise that. I wonder, does it get him a medal if we were to win it? I don't know. Perhaps.
Don't know.
But, I mean, listen, if you can't do it at 4-0 up at home to Wigan, when can you do it?
Sure. I mean, his first involvement was to come and catch a sort of long, high free kick that was pumped into the box, and he really enjoyed that moment, didn't he? He had a little bit of a kind of woohoo high five with one of the defenders. I can't remember who it was, but listen, a nice moment for him, and 4-0 up, like you say, in the 86th minute, chances are it's not going to be the kind of change that impacts a game too heavily.
No, I mean, I think I've seen a few of the first team players, Declan Rice and the like, been over commenting on his Instagram, saying, well deserved and how pleased they are for him to get that chance. I do think Marley Salmon is sort of quietly indicating how highly he is rated by Mikel Arteta. I mean,
were you surprised that he just came on at centre half for Saliba and that Ben White didn't sort of shift inside, play Salmon at right back, and sort of Ben White is there to guide him through the game? I think it maybe did say something that he was brought on at centre half.
Yeah, because he's come on twice this season, but right back at Portsmouth and at Bruges. So I think to bring him on at centre-half, when, as you say, he could have easily made the switch and put White in there. I think that shows you sort of long-term what they're thinking is with him. But I just think it's very unusual to see a 16-year-old in any game state, FA Cup 4th round senior football playing a centre-back.
Same.
Really, really rare. I'm not sure I've seen it before at Arsenal. I'm trying to think.
Not a 16-year-old centre-half.
No, don't think so.
I mean, when they're that young, they tend to be like a forward, a winger, someone like who was young when they came through. I mean, Fabregas, obviously, but Jack, he was different.
And Jack played off the right wing when he was 16, really.
Yeah, Zelalem, Gideon Zelalem, when he played a few cup games, Carlos Vela, young guys. They tend to be attacking players more than defenders, and certainly more than centre-halves.
Yeah. So obviously we've only seen glimpses, but I think he's clearly really well thought of.
I mean, he didn't, listen, I know it wasn't the biggest test in the world, but he didn't look out of place at all. Didn't look at all flustered, didn't look at all worried about having to come in. And listen, the game was won probably at that stage. Well, definitely at that stage. But I think there's an unusual assurance or confidence about him at 16 as a defender, which I think is very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what was evident about him first time I saw him play. He probably would have been 14 or 15, and he just has that real sense of calm, which is obviously what you're looking for, I think, in a lot of modern centre halves. Really comfortable on the ball, really composed. So yeah, another opportunity for him to get a run out.
Yeah. There was some shots near the end, weren't there? Eze had a couple of shots near the end, and
Martinelli had a header that might have done better. Maybe it's a good, decent cross from Zubimendi. Trossard fizzed one across goal that was cleared from under the bar, but I mean, it's so often the way, isn't it, that when you monster a first half and rack up a load of goals, the second half can be a bit of a non-event.
Yeah, and I don't have the inclination or the gumption to complain about that in any way, given the schedule that we have. There's no need for Arsenal to go hell for leather. It would have been nice if we'd scored another couple of goals, but there's no need for us to go chasing and overexerting ourselves. We've got a busy week. This will be, I think I'm right in saying that since Tottenham last played, we'll have played 4 times. Is that right? I think it is, because they maybe played ahead of us the other day. So we played on Thursday. They didn't play at all at the weekend. So 3 times at least anyway. We'll have played 3 games before we play them, and they'll have had all that time off, So there's no point in Arsenal players taking any risks physically. Just control the game, see it out. That's what we did. And the draw for the 5th round is later this evening. So,
yeah.
Do we know all the teams that are in it?
It was a kind draw, wasn't it, to us, the 4th round, to be honest. A home draw against a League One team. We couldn't have hoped for much more. I'd very happily take something like that in the 5th round as well. I was looking ahead at where that 5th round game falls. It could be sandwiched in quite a hectic period. Potentially, we have Chelsea on the 1st of March, Brighton away on the 4th.
And then it'll be that weekend.
That weekend, which could be as well before the Champions League in midweek. So, we have the squad and the capability to go all the way in the FA Cup. Equally, when I look at the 4 competitions we're in, and I'm like, which one might get squeezed a bit, come under a bit of pressure? You'd have to say that 5th round weekend, the timing of it is potentially problematic.
Sure. So the teams in the draw for the 5th round are Liverpool, Fulham, Sunderland, Southampton, Wrexham, Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, Mansfield Town, Norwich City, Port Vale or Bristol City, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Newcastle United, Manchester City, Macclesfield or Brentford, and Leeds United. There's a couple of games tonight, I think. So there's potentially some very difficult draws. There's also potentially some kind draws in there. Listen, I don't want to be too greedy here, but if it's Mansfield in the 5th round, Port Vale in the quarterfinals, Macclesfield in the semi-final, and then Wrexham in the final.
A showpiece final, a Hollywood final.
Won't be sunny in Philadelphia that day, I can tell you.
Yeah, I'll take that all the way as well. And a home draw would be good too.
Very nice.
So yeah, all eyes on that 5th round draw this evening.
All right. Well, I think that's sort of everything that happened yesterday, isn't it? Is there anything else?
No, I think that's it.
I think that's it. Okay. Well, look, we'll take a little break here and we will come back with your questions and more in part 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer the questions that you sent to us on Blue Sky at gunnerblog.bsky.social and also on the, I think I include myself in that as well, don't I? Arseblog.com on Blue Sky. And also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. Let me go there for the first question.
Okay.
It comes from Van Pike. And they say, seeing professional performances from Ben White and Christian Norgaard, are you disappointed that Arteta hasn't offered them more opportunities as a means of freshening things up?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'd say a bit more on the Ben White one. I just think of late, Jurrien Timber's looked a little bit fatigued. I think he's not quite had the zip that he might have had. I know that he obviously went through on goal against Brentford in the 90th minute or whatever it was, or 80th minute. But I do think his performance level has just dropped a touch, and there have been games where I've thought, surely this is primed for Ben White to step in, and it hasn't necessarily happened. But that is one I find a bit curious. On the Norgaard one, I think it's hard just because I think Rice and Zubimendi have been kind of imperious, really, in those positions. And I feel like, with all respect to Norgaard, who clearly is a very competent player and a very good guy, I feel like the gap between Timber and White is smaller than the one between, say, Zubimendi and Norgaard.
Sure. Like I think,
so
go on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So yeah, I sort of have a bit more understanding of that one. But that's not to say there haven't been points in games where we've been cruising or in control, and maybe could have given him some minutes here and there.
Yeah, maybe. It could be recency bias, but I'm finding it hard to remember games where we've been completely in control and we've been able to look at the team and say, right, we can take Declan Rice off with half an hour to go. I don't think that's happened too many times. Certainly not enough times for my liking. I'd like a bit more of that. I mean, I think when you look at the games in which Norgaard has started, he's done really well. But then when you look at the games in which he started, let me have a look here. Slavia Prague, Club Brugge, Kairat, Portsmouth in the FA Cup, Wigan in the FA Cup, Port Vale in the EFL Cup, Brighton in the EFL Cup. Where did he play? Did he play at centre half that day against Brighton? Sure. I can't remember.
What I'm getting from this, Andrew, is big game player.
Well, I just mean that, I think he's been good in those games. And I think yesterday he was really good. He was just calm, experienced, really brought control to midfield. There was an assurance to the way he played. But again, it was against Wigan. And then you look at the Premier League minutes, and he has played a grand total of 32 Premier League minutes so far this season for Arsenal. Hasn't started a single game. And again, I think it's down to the fact that it's Rice and Zubimendi who are in the positions that he would play in.
I mean, I think he's going to be a bit more involved, isn't he? Just because of the injuries we've had.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, it's not really a question of his ability or competence, but what I think is if you're making an assessment of him as an Arsenal player against, I don't want to say inferior opposition, but lower caliber opposition than you would get in the Premier League. And I accept as well, by the way, that he did play against Premier League opposition in the AFL Cup, with Brighton and Palace, and we won those games. So I like you, I understand the Norgaard one a bit more than the Ben White one. Like, for example, I think Ben White could easily have played in the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final against Chelsea, where Timber started again, having started that Saturday against Leeds, and then he started the next game, didn't he, away to or at home to Sunderland. I don't think, as you say, the gap between Ben White and Jurrien Timber is that great. Certainly not defensively. I think Ben White's very good. So I'm a little more surprised about Ben White because he had been such a stalwart for Mikel Arteta. Somebody who he absolutely relied on. Unless there is something behind the scenes physically that is an issue for Ben White that Mikel Arteta knows that we don't know, I'm surprised that he hasn't played more this season. Yeah. As good as Timber has been, I think he has been really, really good. I am surprised that somebody of the quality of Ben White has not played more, which, as we've said, or as the question intimates, there's a benefit as well for Timber, isn't there? That maybe when he goes through on goal the other night, he's got the legs to take the right touch and go outside the defender and apply the finish, rather than looking a bit tired and fatigued as I think he was at that point.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, it's sort of fair to speculate on Ben White potentially having an issue or carrying an issue given his recent injury history, right? And the sort of dramatic change in his usage from Mikel Arteta. I can understand why you might ask that. And I think we probably won't know, but I think it's kind of fair to speculate on that. Mm-hmm. What about this question from Martinelli the Elephant, who says, "Goodly morning, gents. Wolves in midweek is our rearranged fixture because of the Carabao Cup final, whereas City's fixture against Palace is yet to be scheduled. Does this give us a psychological advantage in the title race? Taking nothing for granted, of course, I'd always rather have the points on the board than games in hand."
I agree with the Elephant.
Yeah?
Yep. Yeah. I think it is an opportunity. We play first or play ahead of them, get those points on the board if we win. I think that is, at this point in the title race, in any title race, the points are better than games in hand, particularly when you're already in the lead, right?
Yeah.
Like if it was neck and neck, I don't think it matters quite as much. But I think when you have a 4-point lead like Arsenal do, if we can make that 7 points before City play again in the Premier League, it does add a little bit of psychological pressure, something for them to contend with. Like I think if you're City, right, and you've seen over the last 10 days or so what was briefly, I think it's right to point out, a 9-point lead, become a 4-point lead, and you're like, ooh. But then all of a sudden it goes back to 7. I think there is something there to deal with psychologically. It does put a little bit of pressure on you. And I think if Arsenal can go to Wolves on Wednesday night and get the right result, which, we all obviously hope we do, then, yeah, it is a little bit of an advantage. I mean, I don't think it's going to make City fold up or anything like that, but I would be of the opinion, get those points on the board and let them deal with it, rather than the other way around, obviously.
I've just been having a little dig around when that City Palace game could fall. it looks like it's going to be game week 33, which is mid-April. Okay. So yeah, I think. I mean, funnily enough,
mid-April is when we play Man City.
It could be around that game, possibly the days afterwards.
When Eddie Nketiah scores the goals that destroy Manchester City's title challenge. Is that the one you're talking about?
Could well be. I mean, so yeah, look, I totally agree. I'd rather have the points on the board, but you got to go and get the points.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't drastically change my thinking. You've got to win this game like you've got to win every game.
Yeah.
But you'd like to think, I mean, Wolves away, you'd like to think we'd have enough to win it well on you.
By the way, while we're talking about this and looking ahead, there were a couple of questions last week which I completely ignored, and a couple of comments about, the way when we get to the end of the season, we typically do like a prediction.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm not doing it. I refuse point blank to do it this year.
Okay.
I just want to put that out there. Sorry to disappoint anybody.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work for me this time. Just does not work for me or my brain. And if you want to do them, that's fine. I'll just sit here and not listen to you.
I won't flick that on you, Andrew.
Thank you. We had a question or two about the warm-ups. Jordy says, should Arsenal consider changing their warm-up routine to something that does not cause injury? And Garza says, what's with all the injuries during warm-ups? Feels like we lead all teams in Europe's 5 best leagues in this category besides everything else. Is it just like a bit of a mad coincidence, or are the warm-ups more intense now, or is it because of all the rain? What is it?
You know what it is? They're not warming up enough before the warm-up.
The pre-warm-up warm-up.
It's the pre-warm-up warm-up.
Right.
To be honest, I really don't know. I mean, my worry would be, is this a warm-up problem or is it a Ricardo Calafiori problem? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's the second time it's happened to him this season. Bukayo
Saka also got injured in the warm-up, though, as well. He's not really a get injured in the warm-up guy.
That's true, although that one is one of the ones we actually have footage and evidence for, and it's so innocuous. Like, you wouldn't look at anything he was doing there and say, they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, he's overexerting himself, yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's probably more about, I think it's probably less about the actual warm-up and more about what players are carrying or prone to. To what extent are you worried about Ricardo Calafiori picking up another injury?
Quite worried. I guess we have to wait and see what it is. If it's something different, maybe that's better. If it's a recurrence of what it was before, whatever it was it calf, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
So if it's a recurrence of that, then you would be worried. Because, I think he was one of our best players in the opening part of the season. Like the consistency that he showed defensively and the impact that he had on the way we attacked and controlled games, I think was really, really positive. Nketiah's come in and done well and is beginning to look a bit more comfortable. Would that be the right way of putting it? Where I think he does look a bit more comfortable with what's expected in the Premier League. But Calafiori was excellent. It was really excellent. And it's a shame that we're going to be without him. But there is a history or a frequency of injury that comes with him that you can't help but be worried about, because when it happens enough, we've all seen the players, to whom that happens and how often it happens. And it's very, very rare that they sort of solve that problem. Do you know what I mean? It becomes just part of who they are. For example, Tomiyasu or Zinchenko, right? And we saw a really unfortunate injury for him. I think 3 minutes into his debut for Ajax, he's done his knee. And that's Yeah, I mean, it's terrible for him, but you're not surprised it happened, you know?
No, absolutely. I mean, it is a worry. You know, look, I don't know how reliable Transfermarkt is as an injury resource, but just looking at his page on there, I think it would be a 9th injury since joining Arsenal. I think he's missed over 200 days of availability. Wow. So, yeah, it is definitely a worry. And I think probably that concern is partly why Arsenal decided to do Piero Nkapie as a signing in the summer. Just that, as well as Calafiori was playing, I think there's always that fear that the next injury might not be too far around the corner. And it's a real shame because I think he was absolutely outstanding, really, in those first couple of months of the season. But it feels like we've sort of lost him since then.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's nothing too serious. We'll wait and see what kind of information we get from Mikel Arteta when he meets the press tomorrow ahead of our game against Wolves. We'll be looking for some updates on Martin Odegaard as well, who spoke about his injury in the programme, said he sort of extended his knee and it was very sore, but it didn't look clever, I have to say. So I'd be kind of surprised if Odegaard was available for Wednesday night.
Well, again, not to keep banging the same drum, but I sort of think no need to rush him necessarily. I'd be curious to see a bit more of what we saw on Saturday. On Odegaard, by the way, Mikel was very clear that he got injured in the action around Brentford's equaliser, right? Are you a bit surprised that having picked up that injury on the pitch, that he stayed on in that situation? Like, was that the right thing?
I mean, we don't know the conversation that took place between the player and the physio. I suppose the fact that he'd only come on at half-time might have played a part in him wanting to continue. Who else was on the bench at that point?
At Brentford, I mean...
Lewis-Skelly, Gabriel Jesus, Cristhian Norgaard, Calafiori, Martinelli. Was there a way of reconfiguring the midfield without Odegaard? Like, I saw it when it happened, and when I saw what happened, and when I saw him play the rest of the game, like, I'm not at all surprised that he didn't make this game. It felt like... I think anyone who's played football will have done this at some point where you hurt yourself, twist your ankle, extend your knee, whatever it might be, and you kind of, with the adrenaline, you're able to run around until the final whistle, and then at the final whistle you go, actually, you know what, shouldn't have done that.
Or even the next day,
exactly.
Like swelling comes in.
Exactly. How many of us have woken up, having like turned your ankle playing a game of football, and then you wake up the next day and you've got a balloon instead of an ankle? I think we've all done that at some point, So that's kind of where I think we are with Odegaard. I just sort of thought, because we've got this big squad now, and it affords Mikel Arteta the opportunity to be quite ruthless with his changes. I just wondered, like, if they were aware that he was hurt, could they have changed it in that last 20 minutes? But as you say, maybe it wasn't clear until post-match. How bad it was, or maybe Mikel felt, I need him out there. Yeah, I mean, that could have been it. I think if he had Havertz or Mikel Merino available to him, maybe he makes that change. But without those options, you sort of try and hope he can run it off. But I mean, I think you could see very clearly, by the way, in the final stages of that game, that he was completely inhibited by the injury. So, okay, is it your question or my question?
I've got a question here.
Go on.
It's sort of a continuation of a theme, but MB273 on Blue Sky says, I have long thought Saka should be the answer to our long-standing search for a number 9. Could what we saw today be the start of his transition to a more central position, starting with a 10 role, and then long-term possibly moving to centre-forward in this team?
No.
Okay.
No. No. I mean, I think there is a case to be made for Bukayo Saka to play more central, which we discussed in part one. I think centre forward...
Is it too far, do you think?
Yeah, centre forward is such a specific position. And I don't think for all of his qualities, and he has many brilliant qualities, that is the best way to get the maximum out of Bukayo Saka. I think you can make a strong argument that getting him on the ball in more central positions, where with his left foot, by the way, he can open up the left-hand side of the pitch, but he's also smart enough to play and interchange with someone like Madueke, right? If you want to go right. The angles are there for Bukayo Saka to play in a more central position. But if you're asking him to play as a centre forward, like, I just don't think that's... I don't know. Yeah, I can't see that at all. I really can't. Like, can he play on the edge of the box? Sure, but there's a lot more to playing centre forward than just sort of hanging around the D. As Victor Gyökeres demonstrates, what you need to do as a centre forward is to make lots and lots of runs into the box and then look exasperated when the ball doesn't come anywhere near you. And I don't think Saka has that. Seriously, though, I think absolutely we could get quite a bit out of Bukayo Saka centrally against certain opposition in certain game states, etc., but not as a centre forward.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's totally fair. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out just because, would I have believed he would be a really effective left back? Maybe not. And he's shown a propensity to adapt to different positions already in his young career. And I understand where the suggestion comes from. It's kind of that Cristiano Ronaldo thing, isn't it? Where it's like a wide player turns centre forward. I guess Messi, to an extent, did it more as like a kind of false nine. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily see that for Saka, but I would never place a limit on his adaptability or potential.
Never say never.
Never say never. Never say never.
I'm going to say never.
For the time being, and especially given our requirements at the minute, I'm more invested in this idea of him as a sort of number 10.
Fair enough. I will say never, even though you never say never.
That's good. I like that.
I
think it's good to have a strong take.
All right. What about this? We had a couple of questions about this particular issue. Thornley, 29 on the Discord says, did we make a mistake loaning Ethan to the most combustible manager in football? He's now left. Ethan was an unused sub at the weekend for Marseille and we're looking thin in midfield. Can't help but this season, it should have been all hands to the pump. All hands on deck. If you want to be on Mikel Arteta's boat, let's not forget the fun boat. And Magnus Holmberg on Blue Sky, who's at magnusholmberg.bsky.social, says, any thoughts on Nwaneri and what's happening to him in the chaos in Marseille? Can or should he be called back?
Well, it's been a very eventful period for Ethan Nwaneri in Marseille. Scored on his debut, didn't he? Almost immediately. Bombed out of the Champions League and then off goes De Zerbi into the sunset, which is always a risk with a manager as combustible and emotional as that. And I think I'm right in saying he's kind of fallen out of the team now as well. I think he was taken off at half time recently and then didn't play a minute for Marseille in their last game, left on the substitutes bench. So I wouldn't say it's going exactly to plan. I don't think we can recall him. There's no facility in the deal for that.
Is that a mistake? Or is that just what you have to do? Like if Marseille are going to commit to a loan, they're going to say, if Nwaneri goes there and is fantastic and they need him, but Arsenal then say, right, we want him back, you don't get that loan deal done in the first place, I guess. Yeah,
well, I'm not sure even what the rules are outside of the transfer window, if you can re-register a player in that situation. I don't actually know. Forgive me. But, yeah, if you're Marseille and you're like, we're working on this loan deal for Nwaneri, there's only a few days until the deadline. If you're going to call him back at 1 minute to the deadline, and leave us completely in the lurch. That's not ideal, is it? So particularly when you're paying out money, it's not like someone's doing you a favour. There's a loan fee involved here. Mm-hmm. So I can understand why they would not be keen on a recall clause.
Marseille didn't even beat Strasbourg the other day, and he didn't get off the bench.
Yeah.
Let me have a look at the timing of the goals. I can't be arsed.
My slightly boring answer is to say, like, it's to sort of chalk it up to all good experience to a certain extent. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen there. I think they have appointed a new coach, have they? Perhaps not, actually. Perhaps not.
No. Their sporting director has quit the club.
Sporting director has also gone.
It's just an ideal, stable environment.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is when you pick Marseille, I think it's not the most stable club. I know you're not necessarily expecting the sporting director and the coach to be gone in a matter of weeks, but it is a place that's quite volatile. So, yeah, I really hope that obviously whoever comes in sees the talent Ethan has and finds a role for him. It would be a terrible shame if this was a wasted opportunity. But I was a big advocate of him going out on loan, and so I'm not going to suddenly do a volte-face on that and say it was a mistake. I think it was the right decision. Was Marseille the right club? Right now, you'd have to say it doesn't look it.
Yeah, I suppose that the thing to add as well is the context that at the time when he went out on loan, we had Kai Havertz coming back, we had Mikel Merino, we had Martin Odegaard, we had Eberechi Eze, and, it was difficult to see where Nwaneri was going to get playing time. Some people might say Arsenal should anticipate an injury crisis, because seems to have been part and parcel of our experience. But I think, at that time, the case for Nwaneri going out on loan was very solid.
As you say, though, gain.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it would have been useful to keep Ethan around, but the value we might get from him having a few good months in Ligue 1, I think is greater. But I understand the concerns right now. It's been a wild few weeks for that young man out in Marseille. I hope they find some stability and he can flourish there, because, I think it's an important phase in his development. But I don't think it was the wrong decision. Personally, I don't think it was the wrong decision to send him out. I think that was understandable in the circumstances. Sure. Hindsight, though.
It's always 50-50, isn't it? Hindsight.
Hey, here's believe it or not, there's an angle of the Saka thing we haven't covered.
Get the fuck out of here.
I know. Liam Klein says, morning, gents. With Saka's recent hamstring injuries playing on the wing,
is he going to go in goal for Kepa?
Do you think moving him more centrally is a way of protecting the player?
No. I don't think that's the thinking. Do you think
there's any benefit there?
Possibly.
Less sprinty, maybe?
It could be less sprinty than playing on the wing, that's for sure. But I don't think maybe it might suit him. It might suit his hamstrings and all of that. But I don't think that was the thinking yesterday.
No.
I wonder, I do wonder, is it more physically demanding to play on the wing or in that central position? Because on the wing, you've got defensive duties to do as well, but you do in midfield also. Yeah,
I'm trying to think about the type of contacts you're getting as well from defenders. Like when he's playing high and central, it'll be a lot of sort of back to goal stuff, that can be pretty rugged too. So, I'm not sure how much protection he'll get in those central spaces. I think he might avoid a few sprints, a few of the longer sprints maybe. But part of the reason you want him centrally is because of his capacity to sprint and run beyond.
Well, that's another aspect of him in that position. When we talked about it in the first half, when I talked about him playing higher up the pitch, I suppose the thing that you would say about the way Saka plays is that he is much more inclined to take a man on. You know, that's part of his game. It's part of his game when he plays outside. He's, you know, facing up the fullback and he'll go inside him or outside him. Maybe he's a bit more, or will be a bit more inclined to do that in central areas. Maybe more than, let's say, Odegaard would be. Odegaard's looking for a pass. Saka might be looking to take the man on. So,
yeah, and looking for the shot as well.
That's it. Okay. John Rokesmith on Discord says, your thoughts on Cristhian Mosquera? For me, he's one of the most promising young players we've seen added in years. I think any new defender will fly slightly under the radar in light of the main defensive partnership we have. Do you see him as a Gabriel type, a Saliba type, or genuinely a different kind of defender? He reminds me of earlier very proactive types, but has adapted to Arteta's defensive vision quite quickly.
He's not under my radar, I'll tell you that. And I actually think most Arsenal fans recognise we've got a bit of a bargain there, it seems, a real gem. You know, it didn't go unnoticed to me that he played on the right-hand side of the defensive axis at the GTEC against Brentford, and then on the left here. So he's partnered Gabriel in one game, Saliba in the other, looked equally at home on either side. In terms of is he a Saliba type, is he a Gabriel type? I think, excitingly, he's kind of a bit of a hybrid in some respects. I think he has got the composure and the ability on the ball that you associate with Saliba, but I think he's got some of that bite and power that you maybe associate more with Gabriel. I think I'd say he's a bit more of a Saliba than a Gabriel.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure
agree
he's
with that.
quite as aggressive as Gabriel, is he?
No, I agree with that. I think he likes to get on the ball in the same way as Saliba does.
Yeah.
And he's always showing for the ball. But I think what we've seen from him this season is like it's a testament to how good he's been, that like while it would be a real blow to be without either of Gabriel or Saliba at any point, if Mosquera is asked to fill in and do a job there, not that you're not worried that you're without one of your best defenders, but you feel confident that he can come in and get to the level required. So,
yeah, and there's some very experienced centre halves in that squad. You know, I'm thinking of people like Pierre Nketiah or Ben White or Jurrien Timber. But I think Mosquera has kind of shown himself to be the third central defender in that group, which is some going, really. Calafiori, another option there. So I think he's been a bit of a revelation. And actually, like when you're assessing the summer transfers on an individual basis, I think he's probably, in my eyes, second only to Martin Zubimendi as a piece of business when you consider sort of price, expectation and return.
Pound for pound. You know, if you're weighing him out, pound for pound, he's...
Which we will be doing with all the summer signings at the end of the season.
Exactly. We're going to get in industrial scales and weigh them all pound for pound and make our assessment on them then. No, he's been great. He's been really, really good and just such a promising player. I mean, I think that's probably as much as we can wring out of all of this.
I've got another question about Bukayo Saka.
Do you though? Okay, come on.
No, I haven't really.
I'm ready. I'm ready for any more.
I mean, I have got more, but we've sort of talked around it so much. I mean, it was kind of the main thing out of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Andrew. Do you think we'll see that on Wednesday?
If Odegaard is not fit, I think there's a good chance that we could see that on Wednesday,
Yeah, I think we might see it too. I think we might see it with Rice and Zubimendi behind it.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Madueke on the right.
Madueke on the right, and then the left could be Trossard. Probably Gyökeres up top. I'd sign up for that right now, but
yeah.
Let's see.
Let's see what happens. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about that game tomorrow over on Patreon. We'll have a preview podcast when we get more information, get a bit more team news, and we have a better idea of who's going to be available. In as much as we ever get that from Mikel Arteta, we'll talk about it over on Patreon. Patreon.com/Arseblog if you'd like to join us for that. For now, though, thank you as ever for being here. Hope you enjoyed your FA Cup weekend. The tension, the drama, the stress all ramps up again as we take on Wolves on Wednesday and then look ahead to a North London derby next weekend. For now, though, folks, take it easy and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.